Yesterday has come and gone, leaving some of us to mourn. Times we had and friends we lost, and while nature took its course, we have seen the many faces of slavery. We have seen the British Empire fall. We have seen Hitler's contribution to history. We have seen the rise and fall of the Berlin Wall. We have seen famine. We have seen wars. As you well imagine, we have seen nothing yet, because in time to come, America will have a black president. In time to come, there's going to be an active world government. In time to come, the world will see human life cheaper than dirt. In time to come, from outer space aliens will land on the earth. Team Africa will win the World Cup. Marijuana will sell in the shop. Science will produce bread out of stone and then create the first human clone. Technology will reach a new high. Buses and cars will fly in the sky. Trinidad will make a nuclear bomb. In time to come, let me hear you lifting a back. In time to come. In time to come. In this new millennium, we're going to see some strange things happening. Papa pala papa lele budo budo papa pala pala budo pala lele. Moving from the dark ages, man has progressed in stages. Through the stone and iron age, till we turn another page, and we saw the adventures of Alexander, waging war in his obsession for conquest. Inventions like the chariot and the saber, the weapons that put Europe under duress. Mankind achievements sometimes were great, and its glorious moments mark the passage of time, but wait. In time to come, mankind will have a colony on the moon. In time to come, the Calypso will be a top 40 tune. In time to come, scientists will synthesize silver and gold. In time to come, people will have sex by remote control. The first great man will come back alive. Cancer and AIDS victims will survive. Babies will born with mustache and beard. Penis and kidneys will be repaired. The government will ban cigarettes. Breakfast and lunch will be a tablet. A 2-year-old will split the atom. I love you. In time to come. In time to come. In a park, all you will see some strange things in this millennium. Mark my words. That day when the Wright brothers, after tremendous horrors, got their little plane to soar, all of mankind stood in awe. Just like when that great scholar Benjamin Franklin discovered what would be electricity. And again, when Sir Alexander in person gave the world the first telephone company. But all of that is a drink of rum in our drinking glasses, compared with what is still to come. An asteroid will destroy New York City. California will submerge under the sea. Almost every athlete will be bionic. Every national park will be Jurassic. Computers will compose Calypso. Explorers will find El Dorado. Man will begin to travel in time. Police will stop adultery and crime. People won't go to church anymore. And there will be a gender world war. Preachers will heal the blind, deaf, and dumb. In time to come. Get up back, let me hold you. In time to come. In time to come. La ba la ba la ba ba. I covered. Ba la ba look. Look out, Dolly. I'm coming now. I'm coming up, Dolly now. Nowadays, the things we see have us in a quandary, wondering what will be next in the world of science and sex. We have seen already the tacit acceptance by the world regarding same-gender romance. And we know that according to modern science, life or death could depend on the circumstance. Communication take over now, and in man's expectation, there is nothing time won't allow. Let me hear you. An exorcist will capture a living ghost. A transvestite will become its universe. An East Indian will win the Calypso crown. Scientists will make old people come back young. Advertisements will light up the skies, and holograms will dazzle the eyes. Women will walk naked in the tongue. Things will go up and never come down. To go to Tobago, people will walk. Monkey and dog will learn how to talk. Satmarat will have a Negro grandson. In time to come. In time to come. I'm coming now, I'm coming now.
Oh, yes, the crazy man of Calypso, the mighty crazy. In time to come, in time to come. It's the prophetic tradition. That's part of our Caribbean identity. That's part of our African identity. Prophetic, the prophet. Look, when you on a slave plantation, and to some extent you in the indentured logie, and you're buried in that system, you have to prophesize. You have to prophesize. You have to imagine that another world is possible. So sometimes people ask, why Caribbean people imagination so rich? It comes from oppression. You have to imagine a new world. Crazy Edwin Ayong, the crazy man. You all remember, is he giving nanny wine, down so. Paul, your mother come, Paul, your mother come. Crazy! Edwin Ayong, one of the veterans of Calypso, mixed with Chinese, black, and Venezuelan. He's a real mix-up chap. If Dr. Adams thinks that he mix up, the mighty Douglas, they say, well, what you are going to do? You are going to cut me in two when I win the crown, and crazy. In time to come, the prophetic tradition that is so much part of our cultural expression. In time to come, and he's singing that Calypso at the turn of the 21st century. He's singing that Calypso at the turn of the 21st century. In time to come, America would have a black president. And that happened 8 years into the century. And all the scientific thing that he's talking about, we just 24 years into the century. And a lot of those things are here with us. Welcome to Politics 101 tonight on a Friday night. Dr. Adams is here with us. And of course, we're going to be touching on a range of issues. It's been quite a busy week, and we have been trying to keep up. We understand the Madam Chairman of the Elections Commission at a press conference today. Things are happening. That lady has not a press conference in donkey years. Things are happening. They're trying to do all kind of simmy-dimmy, all kind of little thing with the cash transfer. They want people picture. They want to know where you voted the last time. All kind of story. And we catching them. Things are happening. Wherever you're joining us from, whether you're joining us from in Guyana or outside of Guyana, we are so happy to have you with us, because without you, there can be no Politics 101, no inside the ring, in the ring. I'm going to get charged for slander, bad speech. It's in the ring, not inside the ring. In the ring, straight up. Without you all, there'll be no straight up, no conversations, no confronting corruption with our friend, Mr. Slow. Mr. Slow hasn't visited us in a little while. Next week we're here, because we notice. I never in my life, and I live long enough to be able to say that I know things, but never see a man get so much charge, 200 and something charge, Umilado, they put on Chapman. No, Brutus. Desiree, I don't mean you. Good evening to you, Desiree Chapman. You, Yvonne Shammers. So true, Hector. You can't stop me. Sharon Griffith, good evening to you. And to those of you who have been making your contributions. Thank you all so much. I'm trying to find, because I have some people to thank, and I want to do it before Dr. Adams getting eurychetics, and then I forget. I gotta look on this thing here. God, I can't. I just be on campus and I just see some magic. Them students just be reading, they on their phone and walking, and they don't walk into people. A crazy didn't get that one, that in time to come, people would have been reading on a phone, and don't run into anybody. And campus, as you all know, pack with people. And them children walking wrong, reading. I stopped one of them the other day. She coming down the step, and I going up the step. And she reading, and she swerved away from me. I said, "What? Oh, you see me?" She said, "This phone here, sir. This phone here get an eye. When we reading it get an eye inside where I see you." Oh, Lord. And I can barely get the thing because I got to thank people. Yes. I have to thank Vanilla. Thank you very much for your contribution, darling. My friend Musai. No. Musasi. Thank you so much. My sister Diane from Maryland, Diane B. Thank you so much, Diane, for your contribution. I know I have to thank Mr. DeFlorman, again from Maryland. Maryland treating us nice. Thank you so much for your contribution. Raymond, thank you so much for your contribution. Those of people who've contributed over the last 2 days, and I am appealing to the rest of you who have not yet sent in your little collection. Let me take back contribution. Your little collection. Please send in your little collection. Please send in your little collection. As a collection man, when I do home, and as a funeral man, I don't miss funeral. When I go to funeral, whichever bench me sit down in, me just take out a little 500, 200, and me share with who in me bench. That is your collection. When me go in, doctor, where you sit down? Which bench you sit down? Or if me go in there, they call me, come sit down. Look, me left this space for you. I love my village. I love my country. I love my people. There is something about Guyanese, something about Caribbean people that, Lord, you wake up and you feel like you get the world on your head and you walk out. And within 5-10 minutes, they make you forget that life is hard. And I think sometimes our politicians take that for granted because people don't cry out every day and lash out every day. They feel that we're happy, and they don't realize that behind the smile is a flashing blade, Cousin Christabel used to, she there wake and she sing, and then she drop asleep, and she sell cigarette. She used to sell loose cigarette, and she la 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 la, she drop asleep, and then by you go pull, she bag, forget she cigarette, and she wake up. And what the ras are you do in the wake? La 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 la, Cousin Christabel. And then you drop asleep, and then pull shit in. What the ras are you do? Oh Lord. She was a character. In those days, Cousin Christabel was one of the two people we used to bathe dead in the village. In those days, you had professional people would go and prepare the corpse and so on. That was she job and so on, and people made a living. And you say that our people are not industrious. When it wake your play board, and the board flew from my tree to your tree with words and tune. You got give a verse from the Bible, and then you got forget a hymn to go with it. Jesus Christ. Well, Cully Brown, Mr. McPherson, no matter how much time the board go to he get one verse. Jesus wept, the shortest verse in the Bible. Cousin Christabel said, Cully Brown, oh God, God, I cry all night. Jesus wept. He get time with no other verse. He said, teacher, and the shortest verse in the Bible, you can't forget him. Jesus wept. Good evening to all of you. To all the Bostonians in the house. Good evening to you all. Christmas coming, and you all got to start preparing. People that still wash down. Remember, we used to have to wipe them wall Christmas time, and you take out all them things from the souvenir, and you all wash out and so on, and prepare. They still do them thing, The people still, I don't know about the young people, but them big people. Still, the hardest thing, as I remember, was when you got to wash out the butter. Australian butter, New Zealand butter. Oh, Jesus Christ. You understand why we never used to have to go too much to the doctor? Because when you're done with that, you must look big. You and that time you go to the gym and when we used to run from that. I used to run from the one, my sister Denise, and things to get catch with her. Because she tell Auntie me like over the thing. And, she smile. Auntie me like over, so Auntie gish for do. When she get big now, she want to go where walk and tell Auntie say, but you say you like for wash your butter. Oh my God. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. Let me bring in my spin twin. Dr. You ever used to wash the butter?
Wow. You see, you even pay more attention than me because I didn't even know it come from where it came. All I know it was a red salt butter.
Australia, New Zealand.
Salt butter. We used to here, and Dr. Hines, you're washing that thing for days. You started. As a matter of fact, my mother used to tell me because I want to go outside and play. I got to wash. You see that right? You got to wash for an hour or two before you can get for go. Then you wash it, you left it in, come back the next day. All the redness comes out. When you done the butter get white. And wash it. Can you wash, then you throw the water, put in fresh water, you wash again.
Oh yes. Keith Beresford, good evening, my brother. Good evening, my brother. I'm Kenneth DeFlorman. Good evening, Kenneth. Thank you so much for your contribution to Politics 101. Are you used to wash butter? I used to wash butter. Red butter is New Zealand and Australia they used to come from.
Here, the one thing you forget that, Dr. Isaac, you're right with cleaning out everything, but the one thing that used to make it really feel like Christmas and smell like Christmas is your new brand linoleum.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
You can't forget that linoleum. I mean, it gives the house that new brand smell.
Yeah. You got to tack them down.
You got to tack it.
Lord. Oh, Jesus. My goodness. Look, as your scientists would say, people are socialized in their environment. What we are is we are a product of our socialization and our environment.
Yes.
And Christmas was a family thing. Everybody in the family had to contribute to that thing.
Yeah.
And Doc, there is baked bread now and baked cake and baked this, but you don't smell it.
No, it's not the same. And you remember, Doc, they used to soak the fruit for a whole year.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
They got to soak them fruits in a big jar.
Uh-huh.
And you got to soak all them fruit with currants and whatever else it is for the whole year. As soon as Christmas done, you put in for the next year. You put in your fruits and soak it.
Yes, doctor, these days, well, is the new times as crazy saying time to come, all them things will change up and so on. And your breakfast will be a pill. All them things we used to So did you see the Madam Chairman press conference today?
No. I just heard you talking about it, but I didn't even know that she had a press conference today.
Yes, apparently it's a hurry press conference.
I hope it's on YouTube. I'll check on YouTube.
I am sure it's on YouTube because you would have been busy with your press conference today, the FC press conference.
Right? No, we didn't have it today. But I was doing some other stuff. But we didn't have our press conference today.
Right. So, Doc, I opened the papers. Well, before I opened the papers last night, you send your latest piece to me. And then last night my time, I just read Kaitro News first and opened the Kaitro News. And I saw your letter there. Quite, I think, an excellent letter in which you address the whole history of well, not history, but the relationship between biometrics, not biometrics. The referendum. You address the issue of referendum and why we need a referendum to deal with the issue. And I have to say that is either the PPP pretending they don't know or they really don't know, why a referendum, what is a referendum, and why a referendum on this issue will strengthen our hand as a country. It is not for us to decide here, this is going to be the outcome if we do a referendum. This is what Exxon will do. This is not what Exxon will do. We got to do we work. Exxon got to do their work. And I think you were making that essential point in your letter more. Talk to me.
Yeah, and they very well know, but this is the way that Jagdi and those folks operate. They believe that we're fools, we're not paying attention, and they believe that they can propagandize and we're just gonna walk away. Remember, and one of the key points I made here, these were the same people. You remember Jagdi was foaming from the mouth. As I mentioned in there, donning his red battle attire, shouting, that we need to renegotiate because the opposition has sold our patrimony out and all this kind of stuff. And how we have, then as soon as they get into office, we're going to renegotiate. As soon as they get into office, it totally changed. Well, I think that people should be asking the question, what causes drastic change? So they came up with another gimmick, Dr. Hines, that I had spoken from the day that they started this gimmick, was to talk about the new PSAs with the shallow water blocks. And then when this man just will look at people in their eyes and just lie or try to scam them. He said, well, I told you guys that we will renegotiate. So you see, we come up with these new PSAs. Doesn't he understand what the word renegotiate means? How could you renegotiate a new contract? So it has to be tied to the old PSA. So he came up with that, and because he's talking about this new contract, every time he raised renegotiation, he said, well, no, we've got these new PSAs. Well, what happened, what Christopher Ram did to him was to come up and say, well, okay, you don't want to renegotiate, so let's go to the people. And of course, based on his survey, 94% of the people said, yes, we must renegotiate. So now they're in a tizzy now, because now the people are saying we want to renegotiate. So of course, they're bringing up their autocratic type of style and saying, well, okay, first of all, the survey is not a good survey, but they don't want to go along with the people now because they're in a bind. So, and then they're bringing up this stupidness that from our Attorney General and Jagdeo, by the way, saying, well, the contract says that you've got to get a consent, which is everybody knows that. The contract says you have to get the consent from Exxon. Well, we all know that. But you have to go and approach Exxon and request that consent. So the question that is repetitive in my piece there is, they need to explain to the people of Guyana, why haven't they made the request to Exxon to ask for that consent? And I dare Exxon to say that they will not agree that we should renegotiate, because we don't know where it would end up. They have never asked, and it's because they're scared of Exxon. Exxon doesn't, of course, they'll be glad if they never asked. Exxon will never come and say, you know what, let's go to the table and renegotiate. That is our role. That's what they talk about, sanctity of contract. Clause 32 is the sanctity, is that sanctity of the contract that says you can renegotiate. There's a reason why that clause is there. It's not to take up space or for, to look nice, to make the document look nice. It's the reason why it's there. It says that all contracts are renegotiable. However, it has to the other party has to agree. I wish we had the contracts, every single contract, Dr. Hines, every single contract, because I've written some of them as part of the many contracts we have in the United States government. Every single contract, everyone in the government says, it has a clause in there that says the government can unilaterally terminate any contract for convenience. You hear me? But anyhow, we don't have that. I wish we had that in our contract. Nevertheless, it says, it gives a little bit of leeway. It says Exxon has to agree. But they need to answer, because they've been getting away and going around in circle, trying to take people in circle. Don't tell me that Exxon will not consent. You have to ask Exxon to negotiate and let them deny you. And I dare Exxon to deny the people of Guyana, because we've shown already in a survey that most people, and we know that for a fact that most people wants to renegotiate this contract because we're getting ripped off big time. And I'm not the only one that says that. All the big international organizations have said that. How could it not be a ripoff for my country that owns this oil for we to be getting 14.5% and the contractor getting 85.5%? Now you tell me. How? And then on top of that, we paying their taxes, Dr. Hines. They don't even pay taxes on top of that. We paying their taxes. So it's an unfair deal. The world knows it. And all we're asking for is to ask Nexon to understand that and for us to get a fair deal. Nobody's against investors. We love for Exxon to come. However, it has to be fair. This is the way they have to operate in countries such as the United States and other countries. Even Suriname is getting between 50 and 60% of the take and other countries. So why should we be settling? And this government, they are not fit to be in office if they can't represent us and suddenly taking side, especially when they had the opposite opposite interest, or at least expressed interest before they got into office.
Talking about the new contracts, the new PSAs, the vice president was asked yesterday what is happening with those new PSAs. And he said he hasn't been paying attention to them. And when asked, why are they taking so long? He said, well, he is waiting on the local bidders so that they can get investors before they wrap them up. So comment on that, please.
Well, Dr. Hines, since these new blocks went out there, and I remember I told you it's a gimmick to distract from the renegotiation on the Stabroek block. There's no question about that. Okay. However, from the time those blocks are put in, you could not believe the number of calls that I have gotten from people thinking about investing and all this kinds of stuff. And I warned them. I said, this here, it's an anomaly in the Stabroek block. We went out there. Normally, you would be lucky to get one in 50 wells that would come in with oil. Each of those wells, Dr. Hines, you know what's the cost to drill one single well in Guyana? Over $100 million to $200 million US dollars for one well. So if you're gonna have a company, and we've got some small companies that set up, and and they're looking for investors, but imagine just to drill the well to say if you have oil or not, and do all the seismic studies and stuff like that, it's going to cost you hundreds of millions of dollars before you can produce 1 barrel of oil. So all of these investors now, when they go to get investors got to be confident that they're going to get back their money. And that's what's happening now. They're not getting investors. And when it happened, I said something. I said, follow Exxon. If Exxon is not taking part, do not go there, because Exxon has the data on that entire basin. And if you don't see Exxon going there, do not go. One of the things that he even said there that I read was that Exxon has now withdrawn from the auction.
Yeah. Talk to us about that. And they withdraw from Suriname too?
That's right. So this here's a caution to folks. I'm not telling you whether you should go invest or not. I'm telling you, give me some export advice, not because you find a well. You could drill a well here, it comes in, and a few feet away, it's dry. Those were the way that these fields are set up, they're kind of isolated from each other. We were lucky that we hit all the right spot because Exxon had the data. And now Exxon, when you see Exxon is pulling out, there is something wrong. So, take note, it's a red flag. On top of that, Exxon is even pulling out. They've pulled out of Suriname on the, I can't remember the block 50, whatever it is, block 52 or whatever. Exxon will not pull out if they felt that there was potential oil in there. And again, like I said, Exxon is the big guy in that entire basin because they run. I'm sure they've got seismic studies all up and down the place to give them an indication. So when they're pulling out, you know that they, that's a red flag. Now, in terms of the block in Guyana that they're pulling out of, even when they bid, apparently, and I have not seen their bid in terms of the auction, even they apparently their interest was not to produce oil. Their interest was to store carbon dioxide. That's one of their big business line right now.
Explain that to us. Explain that how you can use a block to store carbon dioxide.
Well, and that's one of my expertise, by the way, in terms of rather, well, what you do, because remember, you have a reservoir with oil, right?
Right.
Which means it's occupied space. When you do the reverse with carbon dioxide or anything, you can store it in the ground by pumping it into the ground. Like for example, you remember the natural reserve that we've got in Louisiana. You remember that emergency reserve, or
Yes.
that big oil? It's in these big salt domes offshore. Well, that's where it's under the ground. We store it. There's no tank or anything. We just pump it and store it into these underground reservoirs. It's the same thing. So what has happened? Exxon has committed. Exxon, you see, Exxon does not want to stop producing fossil fuel. And remember, fossil fuel produces carbon dioxide that causes this whole, climate change. So what they want to do is what is called sequestering of the carbon dioxide. It's a new technology development. So Exxon wants to get into sequestering carbon dioxide, which means rather than emitting it into the atmosphere, you store it in the underground. So that's what, based on what I've read, they really wasn't wanting to produce oil from it. They wanted to use those reservoirs to store, to just pump it and store it into the reservoir. So now they've withdrawn because the government is saying no. That's not the condition under which we're giving you. But so that it answers several different questions there. It asks several different questions. First of all, it tells me something, and it would tell investors something, or even the government. It tells you something. Why is Exxon pulling out from what is supposed to be, or what is built to be, this new potential oil reservoirs out there? Apparently Exxon doesn't believe so, or else Dr. Hayes, you and I know, or anybody would know, that Exxon will not go any place, will not pull out if there is money to be made there. So there's no money to be made there. And then when you dig deeper into it, that was not their intent apparently in the first place. Their intent was to store carbon dioxide as their new line, store the carbon dioxide so that they can keep producing oil as much as they want. So if they had that reservoir, by the way, it wouldn't have had to have been storing our carbon dioxide. It would have been a sequestration of all the carbon dioxide that they probably produce from wherever they want to bring it and put it in there. So those are the kind, that's how I read this stuff here, Doctor. That's how I read it.
Doctor, I want to take you back because the government made a big noise when they were doing the auction. The fact that Guyanese, and there were 3 African Guyanese women who and people were excited. They're giving the impression that it was a big, big deal. The fact of the matter is that the people have not started operating. They're sitting on those what you call them, blocks, right?
Yep, blocks.
They're sitting on those blocks. Tell us the downside of that. The downside of people, bidding, getting these blocks and sitting on them.
Well, it's the big downside to me. Again, is going back to the government. Is no downside. I don't know if there is any penalty for them to sit. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think the downside started coming when we got sold. You see, Guyana, and it's because we're not very knowledgeable in this oil and gas business. So what happens when Guyana hit oil? Everybody believe, oh gosh, there's a swamp of oil down there. It's never ending. All you got to do, Dr. Hines, is go punch a hole. That's not how oil is produced. I mean, it's like a lottery in most cases. Look how many. Just give you an example, Dr. Hines. We have been. When I say we, all kinds of major companies have been coming in exploring in Guyana water since I think in the 1960s. Okay, it's since in the 1960s. It so happened that Exxon hit the right spots, and which was an aberration, to be honest, because you don't this year you don't get this type of a success rate. It's just never happened before. Okay, so the probability of you making further discoveries in the same basin at this particular rate, it's highly unlikely. So when people are running away, or with, oh gosh, we've got, so everybody running and jumping, and then Jagdi and them will take advantage. You're gonna get this representation of the black community to bid and all this kinds of stuff. Bring them in, but I'm pretty sure that they're also struggling to have investors, and investors, that kind of money, Dr. Hines, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. That kind of money, these people who are investing is not stupid people. They're not going to put their money there because they know they're going to invest because they know the business, and they're going to make sure they have the data. And if they're going to be thinking just like I am thinking here, if Exxon, I'm going to be looking at Exxon. If I don't have the technical data, and if I see Exxon is not interested in that base in that area, I am putting my money there because they have all the data. There's some reason why Exxon is not doing it. So in terms of people holding on to those leases, well, what I heard, the vice president said is that they might cancel all of the auction, which wouldn't surprise me, by the way, because I would love to see which investors are just going to go in there blindly unless they know a whole lot that Exxon doesn't know, which I don't.
Good evening to all of you who are just joining us. It's Politics 101. Dr. Vincent Adams is here, and we're talking oil. At the beginning here, Prime Minister Modi just visited, and India is having their eyes now on the oil, and so the fact of the matter is that Guyana is an attractive place for everybody now. We can't run away from that. Dr. the Mayor of Georgetown on this issue, he's saying that he's about to give a tax break to some local AT&T and so on. The government jumped on him, and then he pointed out that the government is giving all the tax breaks to foreign companies and so forth. So there's that back and forth. Some danger there in what the government is doing.
Absolutely.
And how does that square with the local content? I heard Jack himself saying that he believes that a lot of the foreign companies are going to get local partners, and so that the foreign companies themselves are going to be benefiting from the so-called local content.
Well, but that's the whole modus operandi since this whole operation started. This local content. Remember, and I've got all kinds of newspaper clippings. I've spoken about this before. You remember when Guyanese, and until now, they've not said whether they resolved these issues. You remember when Guyanese were having to eat leftovers? You remember those when GAU was suddenly getting involved? Nobody heard what happened in the conversation. When Guyanese, when they took leave, they weren't paid for it. When they had the sick benefits, whereas all the foreigners, including Trinidadians, were coming in and making much more than they were making less than minimum wage, as a matter of fact. When workers from Trinidad, and even, well, forget about from beyond Trinidad, as a matter of fact, some of the workers in Trinidad, they were the ones who joined with the Guyanese and said, no, this is unfair. So it's all part of a pattern, Dr. Hines. So this here doesn't surprise me. Here's the other thing that a lot of people may want. I know you've heard this over and over in terms of what the mayor was talking about, to which is tied to all of this, in terms of preferential treatment, is imagine Exxon does not pay any taxes. All of the businesses in Guyana pay taxes. Guyana, I saw some numbers here from that same article, where the mayor said, well, it says Guyana for 2023 in profit made $336 billion. $336 billion was our take. Of course, Exxon got over, I think they said over a trillion, or Exxon and his partners. Out of that, Doctor, and listen to this carefully, folks. We got $336 billion. We had to turn around and pay 306 out of that $336 billion. Pay Exxon taxes. Of course, it comes back to us. I mean, it's the silliest thing that I've ever heard. It goes from one agency to the other. Says we're not losing it. But here is the questionable. People have even questioned whether this is fraudulent or not. We pay Exxon taxes for 2023, $306 billion. We give Exxon a receipt saying that Exxon paid that amount of taxes. Exxon takes that receipt, takes it to the IRS in the United States, and gets a credit for it. So that is what, and on top the amount of privileges, tax privileges that all of the foreigners get, for example, duty-free concessions and everything else that Guyanese business do not enjoy. So that is what the mayor was saying. The mayor said, you can't treat, how come you treating the foreigners like this? And I know you criticize, you don't want to, you're not supporting us, even giving them a break to equalize or even coming close to balance the playing field. That's all the mayor was saying. But that's not what they want. It's of course Georgetown is not one of their places. We can see how they treat the Georgetown municipality anyway, and this mayor. They have no respect for them and have no interest in this community that is not part of their constituency. So that's what, and even at the EPA, Dr. Hines, you remember you talk about treating people differently and disparate treatment of these companies. They have Exxon files locked up in the executive director's office, lock and key. And all of the other local businesses, they're in a regular room, where we have the rest of the files. So every Exxon is special. They're treating them totally different, and they really don't care. It's open for them. So without question, they're getting more than special treatment.
Talking about the EPA, I think one of the reporters asked about some regulation, and Jack Dio was critical of the EPA, and I thought of you at that moment. Where Jack Dio, that is the EPA work. That is what we would have done. Well, if you politicize the EPA is going to act like a political entity rather than a regulatory entity that is autonomous from the executive government. Your comments?
Oh yes, well we know that's how the guy operates. He's very devious and deceitful to start with. He as soon as he doesn't take blame for anything, he's in charge of it if he thinks that things are not going right. But as soon as you see that something looks iffy and it's the EPA's job. Well, let me tell you, and I saw that comment. The first thing is EPA has no capacity, Dr. Hines. EPA, I'm going to say this for the millionth time. There is not a single person at the EPA who's had 1 minute of oil and gas training. You hear me, Dr. Hines? Not a single person. When I was there, I was doing my job and doing all of that. I was even trying to train and mentor some people. They left after I left. And then now, like I said, all of them are there. We put in place to make sure that we build that capacity. Remember, I talked about the World Bank initiative, where we set up an organization. The World Bank bring down an export for us. We sat there for months, set up an oil and gas unit within the EPA with a 36-member unit who would have had at least 5 to 10 years experience to start with, and then they would have come in, train the local staff. We would have them on board the ships to monitor on a daily basis. They scrapped that. On top of that, we developed what we call a study leave policy, where the staff, any member of the staff, can apply to go to any university, and as long as they get admitted, we will sponsor them, pay for them to go there. all they've got to do is come back and serve for 5 years. The staff started applying. So when I left now, they'd gotten admission to the university. When they brought the admission, you know what they told them? That I wanted to turn the EPA into a university, and that's not what it's about. So when he talks about the EPA doing stuff, the EPA has no capacity to do he's nobody. Anything that the Exxon brings to them, Dr. Hines, they've got to rubber stamp it. They cannot ask questions or do something that even provide any kind of useful thought, because they're intimidated by Exxon, because they think they're going to be, even if they ask a question, they think they're going to be foolish. So Exxon gets away with everything that they want. Exxon writes all the stuff that they're doing, and they just rubber stamp and let it. So when is this nonsense about him say, well, the EPA doesn't have, well, we see the crane. A simple thing is the crane issue. Remember the crane?
Yes.
Even the crane thing, the EPA shows up. They say it's coming from cooking, right? And then they took some reading with some equipment that is totally out of date in terms of calibration. The readings are very high. And then they had to apologize to say, well, the equipment is out of calibration. Then my understanding is that they've got all these equipment that by the way it's set up. I even hired a guy to make sure, because when I had gotten there, Dr. Hines, all of these equipments were exactly the same and I stopped them because I said it's dangerous. You cannot go, this is health problem. You cannot go and give people some readings for something that's going to affect the health, and then it's a wrong reading, and it might misdiagnose what they have. They get wrong medication and all this kind of stuff. So I stopped it. I said, we've got to get these instruments recalibrated, buy new equipment, hire a guy to manage it, to keep it. All of that has gone over here. All the equipment is stacked up in some old room, and all they did was just go pull it out and go and take measurement. That's where the EPA is right now. So when he talks about well, the EPA is going to handle it. The EPA has no capacity to handle it, especially in oil and gas. Nothing, nada, Dr. This is no exaggeration. And I've challenged them to dispute what I just said. Let them dispute it.
He challenges them to dispute it. Dr. Vincent Adams, good evening to all of you who are joining us. It's Friday evening, Friday night for some of you who are up there in Europe, Friday afternoon for those of you like me who are on the west coast of the United States. And good evening to you, Evan Prasad. Evan is my good friend, he liked the PPP, but I'm trying to recruit Evan to come over because he's a sensible boy. And when people say, show me your company, I'll tell you who you are. You got 3 parties per week side. You can take out 1/3 membership in the AFC, 1/3 in the PNC, and 1/3 in the WPA. Doctor, talking about the WPA, last week or early this week, we called on the government to tell us whether they did any due diligence exercise on Car Power with this ship that they bring there, because we did some research and found that the company has a lot of trouble, a lot of charges against the company, and we ask, did the government do the due diligence? And if they did, show us it. The Kaieteur News reporter asked His Excellency Mr. Jack Dio, have you done the due diligence? And if you do it, WPA is asking to make it public. And as you notice, he spent the next 15 minutes cussing the WPA, cussing me. Well, he upgraded us a little bit, First, the WPA don't exist. We are defunct. And then he said, well, WPA is nothing outside of David Hines. And so, so he spent his time costing us so much money where we used to walk during the thing and so on and so forth. What do you know of that company?
I never heard of the company, to be honest. Never heard of the company. As a matter of fact, I was planning to go do some research on my own. But the point is, it's not even whether I know the company or not, or whether you know the company. You did some research, and that's what you found. You should not be doing that for the government, but they were caught with their pants down.
Hands down.
And this is not. I guarantee you. Look at look. You remember the whole. You remember the fiasco with the boat that run aground in Tobago. You remember that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, everybody. You. I mean, there's credible information that boat was coming to GPL. It was GPL fuel. I mean, that's what was talked about quite a bit in the media, but they tried to disown it. And that's the way they operate. They're going out there making these kind of deals that are mostly under the table. The first thing I would do is, I mean, the culture that I grew up in, you just don't go hire a company, okay? I mean, at worst they're incompetent, okay? And it could be, well, not no.
They don't care. They don't care. They don't care.
At best, they're incompetent.
Right. At best, they're incompetent. At worst,
they're incompetent. Because you don't just go hire a company, especially a foreign company. But Dr. Hines, but that's their culture, Dr. Hines. Look at the people who they hired to do projects here in Guyana. That was exposed the at that 530 joke of it. Yeah. So that's the way they operate. They should be doing due diligence, but that's out of their vocab, Doctor. They don't know what that means. So when he got caught with his pants down, he got, as usual, what he does, he gets in abuse out mode and try to change the conversation completely. That's how he operates. Every time he gets cornered, that's the way he lashes out. But no, I'm with you, but it goes back to this, just the corrupt instincts of how they operate.
It is very clear that they didn't do any due diligence. It is very clear. Had they done so, he would have said, "Oh yes," and so on. But he avoided it. He cussed out,
and he switched. He tried to switch it.
He tried to switch, and
yeah.
Dr. Vincent Adams here tonight. Good evening to all of you. Evan, you joined the PYO in 1971. That was fossil before fossil, that pre-fossil time, according to your leader. Evan, come over where there is light. Come over where there is light. They ain't got PYO no more. They get TFYO now. Where they used to get PYO is now TFYO, Evan. They're thieving. Rambo would not be proud of you to be near those people. Good evening to all of you. Good evening, my brother Carl from New York City. Denise Samuels, good evening to you. Audrey Brown, good evening. Good evening to all of you. Francine, good evening. Good evening to you, Francine. Francine are getting a lot of complaint from Mark for you. Said that you're going over there as a WPA stalwart and you're making trouble. Marcus called me and to say, please talk to your activist Francine. She coming on the program and making trouble. Francine, I'm talking to you. I know you're a firebrand, whole revolutionary, but don't give Mark problem because he calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning for complaint for you. All right. Vashti, good evening to all of you. Doctor, this whole business of Ramkaran saying that we have to go to change the constitution and biometrics and, he doesn't think that it will work and all that story. I know you read his column and follow his comments. What are your thoughts?
I of course, I've got a lot of respect for Mr. Ramkaran.
Me too.
However, it is clear. And I don't know, these guys keep shifting and changing code and stuff like that. But without question, at best, again, he's a sympathizer to the PPP. And even defender to the PP, and that's okay. I have no problems with that. But as a professional, I expect better, because there's no way could I believe that he believes what he's saying. So here is, and you know what he's saying. The first thing he says, when I read the head, biometrics are not permitted by the Constitution or
Right.
any other law. No, and I've had lawyers, departments lawyers working on it. And the first question when somebody comes to you and tell you it's not in the Constitution, it's not in any law, like for this, the first question you turn to them, okay, you said it Constitution doesn't allow it. Where does the Constitution
prohibit it?
Prohibit it. That's the first question.
Yes.
The second thing, I believe this man is just, these people need to get in the real world, okay? You cannot ever write a constitution or any law to fit every single circumstance. Doesn't get into the detail.
No,
it gives you what the intent is.
Yes,
okay?
Right.
And then you've got to come up with rules, you've got to come up with procedures, you've got to come up with policies, you've got to come up with standards to satisfy the intent of the law. So here's where he's even talking against himself. He says here, these demands for additional measures, the demands for additional measures may even emerge, such as retina identification technology. So what? The world evolves over time with development of new technology. As long as those things do not go into a constitution. He even said that free and fair elections are now guaranteed listen to the words, are now guaranteed by access of all political parties to the political process, an accurate voters list, freedom to vote in conditions of security, the secrecy of the ballot, an adequate system of identification of voters, and a system of scrutineers. Well, where the hell is that written into the Constitution?
There you go. There you go.
This here is part of the process. And then he talks about the amusing part. Oh, shucks. I think I lost him there.
No, I'm here.
Yeah, I need to get you back on video. Did I lose?
No, I am here. I'm seeing you. I'm hearing you.
So where the heck? Oh, okay. Let me check this. What did I do? Did I jam something here?
I am seeing you. I'm hearing you.
I'm back.
You're back. You're back too. Yes.
Let me cut out one.
Let me bring you in there. The two of you now. Talk now. Let's see if I'm hearing you. You seeing me now?
Yes. See, but I'm still on two. Okay. Let me get you the one. Let me get you the one.
There are two of you. I don't know which one is the real you.
Yeah. How about now?
Right. You're already now.
Okay. Good. So here's the thing that he emphasizing. I mean, I'm really disappointed in the chap. He says the essential constituent qualifications that confer to the right to vote are 18 years of age, as citizens of Guyana, Commonwealth, and all this kind of stuff. Dr. Hines, when I apply for a job, those are basic things. You got to be an adult, right? You got to be a citizen. Does it tell you that you've got to have a PhD in the Constitution? Those are the rules and standards that you set as part of the process for getting to the intent of the Constitution.
There you go.
So you don't let. So that's the kind of thing that these guys, they put these things out there, and sometimes I don't know if he really believes what he's saying, but that's not how the real world works. A constitution does not say, well, you got to have this in all the details. Technology, he himself says that where did he say? Well, he puts a lot of emphasis on the scrutineers. Well, there's nothing there that requires scrutineers in the Constitution either.
That's right. So
what's the difference of having scrutineers and having, in terms of what he's saying in terms of the Constitution requirement? The Constitution doesn't say anything but scrutineers, but it's part of the process as it evolves. If in some future time You know, you can even vote away. You can even vote, sit down on a computer and vote, and it would satisfy the intent of the Constitution. So be it.
That's
That's
right.
what technology is for.
That's
So for
right.
him to go off on this tangent, it doesn't make any sense. You know, so that's my take on it. He has no case. It's totally flawed, and I'm disappointed.
Clyde is asking here, was the Constitution changed for the PPP to demand fees from UG students? As you said, Doctor, there are what are called express clauses in a Constitution. These are clauses that are expressed clearly. We call them express clauses. Then there are implied clauses, what you imply or you infer from what is written in the Constitution. The Chief Justice herself relied on the Constitution when she said GCOM could fix any problem that it confronts. And so GCOM had two major complaints coming out of the 2020 election. One from the PPP that said Mr. Mingo and others were mistabulating. Then they had a slew of complaints from the APNUFC, voter impersonation, people who died, no statutory documents, and so on. Is it not incumbent on GCOM to do an investigation and to address those charges and fix them?
Absolutely.
The PPP has moved to court. They come in, they use the power of the executive to carry people to court, Lowenfield, etc. And in any case, their charge was attempt rigging. The AP and UFC charge were actual rigging, and evidence was given to GCOM. GCOM corroborated some of the evidence with the police. Don't you have to fix it? And if biometrics would fix it, how does that fly in the face?
That's right. That's exactly right. You know, that is their job. It's just because the EPA has its job. The Constitution says that they guarantee clean and safe environment. It doesn't get specific as to when I go write policies from the EPA. It doesn't go into those details, or Ministry of Natural Resources. It doesn't cover all of that. So to say that biometric, that's part of the process of GCOM. If there's a problem, they're supposed to go and use their own to fix it and to come up with a solution. And if biometrics is a solution, so be it. We're in the age of technology, Dr. But you see that it asks, it's a bigger question, just like the renegotiation question. What are they afraid of? This here should be a gimme. It's not taking away anything from anybody. Nobody could deny that it makes it fairer. Don't tell me that it might delay stuff. I don't care. I would take the delay to make sure that we had a fair process for the election. Don't come up with all of these, these excuses and pretexts. What are they afraid of, Dr. Hines? And by the way, Dr. Hines, this is the same Jaglio and company that were calling for biometrics when they were in office. That's a hypocrisy. Not sorry, when they were in opposition.
Yes, when they were in opposition. Yes,
when they were in opposition, the same set of people. But it shows again. It shows again. These guys cannot be trusted. When they're in opposition, they called for biometrics, and when they were in opposition, they called for renegotiation. And as soon as they got in, all of that it's gone through the window. So why? They're both. Both of those are in the best interest of the Guyanese people. So that's the other question that we need to ask. Why? What are they afraid of it for biometrics?
Doc, when they lose the election, the next day they're going to be calling for biometrics.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely
correct. The very next day they will be calling for biometrics. Good evening to all of you. Politics 101, thank you all for staying with us. Those of you who have made your little contribution, thanks to you. The information is being scrolled at the bottom of the screen there for you to make your little contribution to Politics 101. It's that time of year when we come to you for your contribution. Doctor, you've been following the elections in Mauritius. What does it tell us there?
And to be honest, I did not know a whole lot about Mauritius. So when I saw the election results, um, so I went and I, took a brief look at it. Mauritius is so similar to Guyana.
Similar to Guyana, yes, very
Very
much.
similar to Guyana. As a matter of fact, even Chetty Jagan, he had visited there multiple times and once
Yes,
talked
yes,
about it as a model for Guyana.
yes, yes.
It's so simple. Here are some of the things. Here is what struck me. It says, the election campaign focused on the economy, high inflation in particular, arrogance of the prime minister, his ministers, and other government officials. Listen to this, Dr. Hein. It had shades of autocracy, and the echo of time for change. The incumbents were known to abuse the state apparatus and machinery and power, as well as engage in corruption, delayed completion of state projects, a culture of patronage and nepotism, widespread scandals, and disrespect for checks and balances normal to democracy. Tell me which country, even if you didn't know, but Mauritius, which country does this fit, Dr. Hines?
Guyana.
And you know what happened? This just based on these alone, the party came into office. They swept all 60 seats, not even all 60 seats.
Not one. As
all
George
60 seats.
As George Chambers said in 1981, I think, not one damn seat for them.
Yep.
Dr. Vincent, yes.
So there's hope. What I guess the message we're sending here, folks, there is hope for Guyana. After all, don't get despondent. It happened. It happened in this country that is very similar. That even Dr. Chetty Jagan said that we want to make Guyana a model of that country, very similar to our country. One of the issues here, Doctor, I'm telling you, it's so similar, was an oil spill in Mauritius.
Mm-hmm.
They had an oil spill, and they blamed the government for not handling it correctly. Again, does that ring a bell with us? With our government taking the side of Exxon to not even cover an oil spill if an oil spill occurs. Exactly the same thing happened here in Mauritius. So, I mean, you can't want a better parallel to compare yourself to than Mauritius.
Dr. Vincent Adams here this evening. We have come to that time because, it's Friday night. You all have to go over to Sherrod. He'll be ringing that bell there and waiting for you all. And I don't want him to abuse me out and say, Dr. Hines, you delay some of the students. So, Doc, thank you again for coming through on a Friday evening. And we know the first test match started today. We had a pretty good day. We batted through the day. We lost 5 wickets. We have close to 300 runs. And in old-time test cricket, I think, that's what we're accustomed to. It wasn't a bad day. It wasn't a bad day for test cricket. It wasn't a bad day for the West Indies. So I'll see you on Sunday.
Definitely. We at least the positives. We had a couple of really good test cricket knocks, except that again they fell.
They didn't stick on to the 3-figure.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you very much, my brother.
Anytime.
And to you, our people, Palo Walla Pride. I like that. Palo Walla by. That's what we used to call them, people coming in from the islands. Especially in Mackenzie, the Linden, where you had a lot of Vincentians, and so they call them Palo Walla. I remember as a little boy going up to Linden and my auntie, and they'll call them Palo Walla. Good evening to all of you, Shireen, Ray. Thank you all very much for staying with us, and have a nice weekend. And I will see you all on Monday. For those of you into cricket, of course, Sunday night. Check us out, same time, same place, for another edition of Politics 101.